Happy birthday.
Thank you. And I'm going to say, as people get in the room, welcome everybody. And I'm going to say that I'm just going to go out straight with it and say, yeah, it's my birthday. I'm
Yes.
62. I
We
went out to a
wish.
great restaurant last night. I was sitting with my husband and friends, and I made a wish on a birthday candle, and it came true.
Oh,
Victor Orban is gone. Happy birthday to me. I just want to swear, but I won't. I two wishes, and then Rory just won the Masters 2 times in a row. And why this is important is good one. Rory
sure.
McIlroy, I always get his name. I always say it funny in the end. But McIlroy won the tournament, but he is an anti-Trumper. He's a good man. He's a won't take the money from the Saudis. So good one today. Back to back Masters winner, Green Jacket, and Orban, the voting. And Michelle, let me just get it started. I'm going to hand it to Fennell and then to welcome Michelle Hornish and her great followers here. Fennell Norton, welcome to the Sunday Sit Down.
Yes, welcome to the Sunday Sit Down. And we're always happy. So Michelle isn't going to really be a special guest anymore because
It's
we
part of
just love her. We want her to be here all the time. But she is the executive director, and she also writes Small D's Done, which is like my favorite thing. They're
Aw.
just beautiful. And so, but she's also the executive director of say
Every
it.
state blue.
every state
Every
blue.
State Blue. Thank you. Every State Blue. And so she has a lot to say. So we'll do the celebration first about Victor Orban being gone because I think that's worth talking about. And you did some really great posts about that. We can talk about that. Then I also want us to talk about this new thing that you guys have launched, First in Line, and about why that's going to be so important, especially during this election cycle. But then there's a whole bunch of other stuff we can talk about because this is unscripted. So we get to talk about whatever we want to talk about. And you guys can throw some stuff in the chat that you might want to hear about too. But we always have opinions about a lot of stuff. But we cannot end without talking about the Yes campaign that's happening in Virginia because we're down to like, what, 9 days or something? And we have to talk about that because we have to get people out. I don't really care where you live because you can get on phone banks. You can call your friends and family who live in Virginia. You can text, you can post, but people must get out and vote so that we can put some restraints on this madman who is president of the United States. So, Michelle,
Before you go on, though, can you explain to people what that campaign is in case they don't live in Virginia and they don't understand what the specifics of the campaign are?
I can. I love explaining this campaign because it's so important.
It
So
is.
I don't know if everybody is aware or not, but you've probably seen maybe ads on TV or somewhere where you see Donald Trump saying, "Hey, Texas, we want you to get us some more votes because it's really important to them to win in November." And they are doing so poorly that they are worried that they're going to get shellacked in November. So, in an effort to claw that back, they are asking states to redraw their lines early. We do it every 10 years, but they're asking North Carolina, Texas, Florida is thinking about doing it,
Missouri.
Missouri. Yes.
Yes.
And there's probably a few others, but they're asking them to redraw the lines early. And what happens is they draw out Democrats so that they can actually start playing with more people on the field. And what we're saying is what we usually say is, oh, geez, that's wrong. We shouldn't do that. But California was the very first one to say, if you go through with this, we're going to ask our voters and we're going to redraw our lines. And they were really concerned about it because Texas, it went to the Supreme Court to say, don't do this. But what did the Supreme Court do? They were like, yeah, Texas, you just roll with that. And so California said, okay, then we're going to put it to our voters to decide if we should redraw our lines. And they did. Overwhelmingly, they said, we are not going to sit this one out. We're going to redraw our lines. And so, Virginia, because of the fantastic election that we had in November, we had the ability to do the same, to go to our voters and say, hey, this is not fair. We don't like gerrymandering, but what would you like for us to do in order to level the playing field, not just for us in Virginia, but across the country? Because every seat matters in terms of what happens and how we restrain this president. And so, April 21st, voters will decide whether or not we redraw the lines in Virginia. And that will be so important to level the playing field and put some restraints on this president. We still have to vote and we still have to vote these people in, But the point is, it levels the field, and that's why we need everyone to vote yes. How'd I do?
That was fantastic. That was
Okay.
fantastic. And I think that it really highlights the national implications of this state election, right? I mean, this has the potential to impact all of us across the country. I mean, all elections do, but this one in particular. So I think it's really important for folks to understand that, and that even if you live in Missouri or Indiana or Illinois or something, you can still call, get on a phone bank. You can reach out to your friends who live in Virginia, and reach out to your friends who have friends who live in Virginia. Make sure that everybody's getting out there and remembering to vote, because the last day to vote is April 21st.
April 21st. And we had Saturday voting this week. We have Saturday voting next week. And so there is, we have to take advantage of every opportunity, and we have to do all the things. So whether it is texting, whether it is phone banking, whether it is knocking doors, whether it is reaching out to your friends and family, we have to do everything. Because I think one of the important points that someone pointed out today, which I think we know this, is North Carolina redrew their lines, and they got rid of 3 Democratic districts. If they had not done that, we would not be talking about the big, beautiful bill that is just a big, horrible piece of garbage. And so that happened. And so that's why it doesn't matter that this is Virginia. It doesn't matter. The bills, the policies that are made affect all of us. And that's why everyone has to be engaged in this fight in Virginia. Yeah. Okay. So Catherine, so what do you want to talk about
Well,
next?
well, I just want to make sure that you can hear me okay.
I can hear you.
I can hear you
You know
fine.
me, I'm being a little quiet because I'm out here in Shenandoah. Everybody on the line, I'm laughing because I see Rick talked about the next dream would be to get rid of the president. And I'm so into that, Rick. I totally agree with you. I'm glad to see people coming in the room. So I'm out in Shenandoah in Virginia, out in the country where it's a lot of red, a lot of Republican district out here right now for my birthday weekend. And I can tell you a lot of no signs.
Mm-hmm.
The bridge. I came out here for my birthday. I had the best day. I started with a protest on the bridge with people have been protesting 58 weeks on the bridge out here. Okay?
Wow.
58 weeks. And I tell you, it was a lot of on the bridge and I don't get a lot of this back home. It was a lot of middle fingers. Called us libtards. We had guys go back and forth across the bridge and giving us all kind of nastiness. So the Republicans are energized to vote no. We actually have the highest ever early vote for any election in Virginia. We're at 850,000, probably more since early voting just started. We are at a crazy number, which shows me Republicans are actually energized. I'm going to tell people what really gets me excited was Orban losing. And right now, unfortunately, I feel like the Democrats in Virginia are a little sleepy about this. They're making this a contest about gerrymandering rather than a contest about the future of our country.
Yeah.
And the messaging is being missed opportunity by our governor. She really needs to fight back. She's kind of not swinging hard enough because they're really putting so much misinformation about her budget, her popularity, and she is not framing it about what we're doing is making sure in the midterms that we can put a check on his stealing. And so the messaging, the Republicans are doing a really good job making sure their voters are concentrating on Democrats taking their power away rather than what Republicans aren't doing for them at all. So I'm a bit concerned, and I want Democrats to get the message. This is not about gerrymandering. This is about stopping his madness because he is stolen these 8 seats. And unless we just decide we're going to play with less people on the field. But I just want to say that I'm out here. It is interesting to be out here in the middle of a whole different area of Virginia, seeing the energy coming from the Republican side.
Yeah, I imagine that there is a lot of energy there. I mean, what's interesting is now with Orban losing, right? He's sort of the architect of what I know. David Pepper sort of introduced me to this phrase. Before that, I had not heard of it, but this competitive autocracy. And then red states, have adopted that. Donald Trump has adopted that. Basically their entire administration has adopted this idea of having this autocracy that looks competitive on the face of it, that there are elections, but they're rigged and there's no way that you can really win. Well, I mean, obviously they did. They had amazing turnout and they got a shellacking. Orban's people got a shellacking today, which is fantastic. But I think that it's another reminder to Democrats that we have to use every tool that is available to us. It took them 16 years. Orban has been in power for 16 years. So we really need to push with everything that we've got to make sure that we can have as many brakes on them as we possibly can.
You said it right, in every tool. And I'll let Fennell finish up on that. I got really upset with some of our Democrats that are getting into this, really prominent, some of them in leadership in the gerrymandering, or let's just say the voting area. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So spreading this thing and actually talking online like we can't vote for this, and we have to be principled. Gerrymandering is wrong. Two rights don't make a wrong. And I'm like, look, if you're framing this wrong, it is right to use these tools because we know what's happening. But the other side of it, are you so principled? Are you so kind of silly, stupid not to understand in your principledness? You won't have any way to fight back. We will be in this place 16 years if you lose this ability. Like, you're not going to have a principled fight with these people, right? You are saying, okay, I'm not going to really fight back. And I'm going to give up. I'm going to say to you, I'm so moralistic. I'm just going to tie my hands behind my back while you beat me in the face. Okay. It's like, so your principles aren't going to get you anywhere because you won't be able to compete with them. You'll just be like, well, I lost. And then there's no way to fight back. And I think that's, to me, it's the biggest, moral failing by people not understanding this moment. Really.
Well, I mean, I'll say too that we've been doing this unilateral disarmament for a long time, right?
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Right.
And it hasn't gotten us where we wanted it to go, right? I mean, Michelle Obama came out and she said, when they go low, we go high. And I agree with that because I think that when we say we go high, it means that we hold them accountable. That's
Mhm.
what going high is, right? It means not getting down into the mud with them, not being at their level, but holding them accountable.
Yes.
And that means that we need to use every tool that we can because our job is to protect the people and to protect this democracy.
Yes.
That is the highest calling that we have right now. And so we need to do what we need to do in order to make that happen. And I will say that they brought this on themselves.
Yes.
It was not something that Democrats wanted to do. This is something that Democrats were forced to do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say this. It would be a matter of who do you trust? And so
Oh,
Democrats have brought this thing to the House and to the Senate multiple times to say, let's end gerrymandering. And
yeah.
every single time the Republicans have not voted to do that. And
Right.
so now here we are at this place where it's clear. It's like they hear Trump say, I want you to get me more seats, like he wanted those votes in Georgia. But they hear him say that, and yet
Mhm.
they think that we're supposed to just sit there and turn the other cheek and not do anything. And this fight is way too important to do that. And I will tell you, in terms of fighting back and not rolling over. Is what people want to see. As I talk to people, as I read what other people are saying in polls and in focus groups, what they're saying is, "We want someone to fight for us." They are
Right.
they are tired of us just turning the other cheek and saying, "Well, you know what? We can't really do that. That's not what the norms are." We have so many examples in history where folks have said, "This is really not where I'd wanna be. This is not the decision that I'd really want to make." But in terms of what the outcome would be and the loss, to our people is so much greater than this one decision that I'm gonna stand on a high ground for. I'm gonna stand on a higher ground to protect our people, and that's what we are doing right now.
Right.
And so what bothers me so much is when I see all of these folks who are saying vote no,
I
and I
know.
I mean, I really wanna understand what they're voting no for. And Michelle, you had this today, and I wrote it down. It was one of the comments that you made in terms of connecting this to people, connecting this to what's happening. If you just sort of look at what Republicans are delivering to their people right now, we have farm prices that are up. People can't get fertilizer and all of those things that they need because of the war in Iran that's just going off the rails. Grocery prices, gas prices, families having difficulties, what we're doing to immigrants who are here legally as well as undocumented immigrants. It is terrible. And for folks to look at the detention camps and to look at them as if it's okay to treat people that way, I'm bewildered that anyone would want to stand behind a vote no sign in the environment that we're living in and to think that
Right.
they are okay with all that they are seeing, which is why I say you have to make injustice public. We need to show them that we see what they are supporting. And then if you want to look at me and tell me that you are happy with what you're seeing with immigrants, and some people have, I read that.
Right.
But my question is, for most people, most decent people, that is not a place that they want to be. That's my 2 cents on that.
Well, like when I
That's more than 2 cents. That was
a lot of money. We got rich
lot.
we got
That's
rich
good.
on that one. And I do think, what I see, and we talk about this as how we message and the psychology of all of this. And right now, when you're out here, what they're doing in the messaging, and they're being quite brilliant about it, is they're not talking about the Republicans had nothing in Virginia to run on right now except our amendment, this redistricting amendment. And they're framing it as this amendment will bring more illegals to take your services away. This amendment is taking your voice away. This amendment is doing all this stuff because they don't want to say, we've delivered nothing for you. We voted for this big, bad, beautiful bill that took your health care. We've allowed Donald Trump to take all the jobs. They don't want to talk about that because they have nothing to talk about. So we gave them something to talk about, and we have to actually decide, are we going to talk about it? And I think Fennell and I'll have to speak for myself, have been disappointed by our own elected people that passed this in Virginia. And I felt like they passed and they went somewhere for appetite and them to come back for dessert, because I'm waiting and I think I feel a little bit of this movement, but I don't feel enough because our governor has to get out there. So I know I have to rely on different ways to get the message out from people in different states to make sure that we're really talking about what it's about. Because if we lose this momentum, what I'm really worried about is losing the momentum. We're in the momentum. Can we build on can we build on what just happened in Hungary? Seems so naturalistic. It
Yeah.
seems far away, but is it? We
No.
are actually fighting for our democracy right now, So it's like,
This is very much in the same like
well,
bracket of things. Absolutely. Like
well,
we
why?
are
Yeah, but why are these people like Democrats online talking about this whole principled crap? Like, are they not getting it, Michelle? Like, this is where like our own people, are they not like in the moment, or where are they at? Or where are they eating at? I'm like,
I mean, that's a great question. I saw a really great quote from Saul Alinsky, which actually I was thinking of the same one. It's a paraphrasing that Rick just
yeah,
had
we're
here.
doing some good stuff in there. Rick,
Those who worry about the means to an end find themselves on their end without any means.
ooh,
Rick? Yeah. I
good.
was thinking of the same kind of thing, Rick. I mean, you know, it's all we can criticize the way that we go about this or that or the other, and people could say that they would never do this or what. Right now, we need to do everything all at once, right? Like I think that it was Governor Pritzker that said that. Obviously from the movie, like be everything everywhere and all at once.
Yeah, good movie. Yeah.
That's what we need to do. This is not, we're not playing dirty. We're not doing anything other than what Republicans typically do. And people who say that two wrongs don't make a right are people who are not looking at the actual stakes here.
Or
Right?
that
This
what's
is
right.
Your
It's right.
literal lives.
Well, what is right, though? What is right is to actually, if you had to go back in time and Hitler was coming up and there was a couple things and you said, I'm just going to dismiss this a little bit, and you just sort of, is that, if you had to go back in time in a little space machine, maybe you'd be like, have a different idea how you would have stopped this person. We are kind of right here in that time. And I look at it like you have to, we're using the tools. We're asking voters. We're making our case clear. We're not doing anything. We're doing everything right. And I feel like we got to stick in that. But I do want to say I'd like to talk about Michelle Fennell. I'd like to talk about the new organization because I feel like it fits into what we're talking about tonight. Running everywhere, supporting people and doing so let's talk.
So before you do that, because there was a comment here, and I think Michelle will hit on that too. We were talking about rural, and so we know Lindley Thorne, who runs Rural Ground Game, who they do amazing work to ensure
Amazing.
that we have candidates in rural, but that they have resources and support. And so Virginia was the first time that we actually ran a candidate in every single district, and it mattered. So first in line, Michelle, talk about first in line.
Yes,
Yes.
I think it's important too for people to realize that it wasn't just that there were people who ran in every district in Virginia, but they, like you said, they had resources. So there was also a crowdfunding effort that was funding the people who were in the reddest districts, and that speaks directly to what we're talking about here with First in Line. So I'm the executive director of Every State Blue, which is the umbrella organization that supports Blue Ohio, Blue Missouri, and Blue Tennessee. We started back in 2017, and since then, well, we started in 2016, but I joined in 2017. And ever since I've been part of this organization, we have been trying to get resources to the places that need them the most. And we started our state projects in Missouri. Since we started Blue Missouri and Blue Tennessee and Blue Ohio, we have raised and distributed over $1 million to state legislative nominees who are running in some of the reddest places in those states. And that matters because a lot of times when people are thinking about, well, where should we make sure that, where should we get resources to? People are going to think about flippable districts, right?
Right.
You're going to look at flippable state legislatures. You're going to look at flippable seats within those places. That is a good strategy for actually trying to make some immediate impact today. But what we do is something different. We're looking further. We're looking more at the long game, right? Because we ran a study, but there's other organizations that have too, that found that just having somebody on the ballot leads to a 1.5% vote share increase for the top of the ticket. That's huge on
Mhm.
its own, right? In some of those statewide races, that's a significant thing. So just making sure that there's more names on the ballot is a huge deal. But we also found that resourcing them, giving them actual dollars, real cold hard cash,
Mhm.
means that they also that amplifies the impact, which makes sense, right? Competition fosters democracy, but knowing about the competition is quite helpful to make that happen. So, in order for someone to actually know what's going on, the candidates have to have sufficient resources to be able to, gas money to get out to the rural voters, yard signs, palm cards, that sort of thing. So, we're talking about minimal resourcing. We're not talking about giving, $1 million to each of these candidates, but we're talking about making sure that they had some money to get out there and make some noise and really hold people accountable. Accountability right now is the name of the game. Voters want it. People of America want it. Everybody wants accountability. And if we don't have people who are running in these districts that actually have resources, we can't hold these extreme state legislators accountable. It is all too often that the worst state legislators in the country, the ones who are in charge of the abortion bans, the ones who do the voter suppression laws, the ones who attack our public schools, right? The ones who are constantly fighting these culture battles, they are usually the ones that are super safe they're tucked into these gerrymandered districts, right? And they're like an R plus 35 districts.
Mhm.
So nobody runs against them. Or if somebody does run against them, they don't have any money because they call donors on the phone and the donors say, well, what does your district look like? And they say,
Mhm.
well, I'm probably going to lose, but it's important for me to run anyway. And they say, yeah, it is. See you later. And
Right.
then they don't
Mhm.
get any resources. That's what we're trying to fix, right? Because we recognize the significant impact that these people are making, both immediately, right? Because they can turn out, more voters for top of the ticket, and they also can blunt a lot of that Republican messaging, and they can push back in a very local way because you and I don't know how to message in their district like they do. They know what potholes haven't been filled for a really long
Mhm.
time. They know where the problems are with public schools. I don't know that stuff. And a statewide person probably doesn't even know that stuff. And so we're getting resources to the people who can share that local message and really be local organizers in their own communities. And it's been incredible. So it's worked really, really well with Blue Missouri, Blue Ohio, and Blue Tennessee. Now we're taking it everywhere. So, first in line is our new initiative that uses Act Blue tandem fundraising pages. So, super simple. You just go to everystateblue.org/first in line and just go down. And I suppose I should explain how it works. But first in line, is it's set up so that we are, well, first I should tell you guys how many right, there's so many things to say. I'm just so excited about it. So okay,
I love that because it is about first in line. So first,
it is. So the reason, one of the things that we were trying to do as we were thinking up how to structure this, right, was who would we resource first? There's so much need, right? So in 2024, there were over 1,000 districts across the United States that were completely uncontested. That's 1 in 5. There were more than 1,000 that were underfunded. That's another 1 in 5. So we're talking about 4 in 10 or 40% of the state legislative districts either didn't have somebody on the ballot or that person didn't have any funding. And that's wrong, right? So we need to do better on both of those. We know from Blue Missouri, Blue Ohio that if we resource people,
right,
more people will run. We've seen that happen cycle after cycle because we've had record-breaking recruitment, and the people in the party call me and say, you guys are the reason that we're having record-breaking recruitment because everybody knows that they can rely upon you guys to give them resources. So that's what we're trying to do with First in Line, because we don't have the time to be able to spin up a blue state project in every single state. And so we're doing the next best thing, which are these blue Act Blue tandem fundraising pages. And in order for us to decide who was first in line for First in Line, we actually went and said, okay, we want to make sure that we are empowering and celebrating the people who are running in districts that otherwise would have been uncontested. So we looked at what districts last cycle were uncontested, and all of the people who are in our first round of First in Line funding are people who are running today in districts that were uncontested last cycle.
Right.
So that's how we're trying to lift those people up. And we're trying to get them to $2,500 each. It's not enough, but it's enough to matter. That's how I try to tell people, is it enough? No, absolutely not. Like, I want to make sure that they have more, but first we have to get them up to 2,500, and then we'll move to the second round, and that will be based on partisan score. So we're going to fund rounds 2, 3, and however many more based on how Republican you are. So starting from the more Republican districts. So we're resourcing the folks who typically don't have any resources at all.
Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Catherine.
Just real quick, I know when I talk about Virginia again, and when we saw like in 19, more people ran for the General Assembly. And then this year, like you said, last year, we really had 100 people. We filled every seat. It made a big difference. Yeah. And it really increased vote share around, like when you said all the great reasons. What I know when I told people when we actually won in the State House, we won actually statewide 2019, but a lot of rural candidates lost, but we won because they ran, right? And then people get disgruntled or they get unhappy because truthfully, we just don't sometimes follow up and go back. And we have a bad history of sort of supporting these people that stand up in these hard to win races. But we've changed in Virginia. We've really made some great headway, and it really shows by the numbers. But just going back to one thing, it makes me think when I think about all the work you're doing, all the work we do to try to help candidates and everything they kind of need, not only money, but web help, strategy help, and all that, is that I'll just go back to this thing about voting. We also need our voters to just vote. And I think when we vote, we win, if we can also civically minded, make sure people vote. And you have people go run and do all this work and then people don't vote. And I just say, I think the diagnosis, beside my bad internet out here, is that we also need people to participate in this process in general. I'd love to see that too, the real awakening of it and civically minded. I think that this is key because all the damn work we do, I'm like, could people just do their simple thing and feel that they need to go also do this? So it's just something on my mind because I saw how great, as we kind of wrap up a little bit here today, how great it is when people get off their ass and get out there and fucking fight and vote. It's just like,
well, I mean, that's part of it too, right? Is making sure that there's competition and making sure that people have a reason to get out and vote. I know that a lot of times in rural areas, there isn't anybody on the ballot, or they don't believe that there is going to be someone on the ballot. And that's why I'm saying it's not just having a name on the ballot, because you're right. A lot of times those candidates, they're doing it as a favor, right? Someone says, we really need for you to run. And so they run. And then they're at a training and they say, how am I supposed to raise money? And they say, Rolodex yourself.
Yeah.
They say,
What?
go through and
Horrible.
call people. And that means anyone who's a young person, they're not going to have that many people to call, right? There's a reason why we have so many millionaires and billionaires in office right now, right? Because we have coupled being a good candidate and being a good fundraiser together, and they don't have to be the same. We can decide that they don't have to be the same. And we can resource candidates that we want to run where we want them to run.
Yeah, one of the things that I know we're on the top of the hour that I would say is so important is the messaging part. And it's not just messaging in terms of, what Republicans are not doing, even though we have not done a really good job of that. I do think that there's been this hesitation to really call them out for, you voted for this. The reason that you don't have roads, or the reason that you don't have healthcare expanded, or the reason that you don't have your schools funded is because this person didn't vote for that. But we don't tell that story often enough. And having someone who is brave enough to actually tell those stories, but also brave enough when they're talking to people to say, listen, this is what's probably going to happen in this election, and you're going to help me do it. Because I always say that every time someone runs, it is a win while we're working towards the win. And I think being honest with the folks that you're working with, for them to know that this is what they're working towards, helps more people have the confidence and have the willingness to actually go out and vote, because they will say that. They'll say, well, I'm not going to vote because she's not going to win anyway. But you
Right.
have to let them know that, yeah, that vote that you do is really important. And that's why we're out here talking to you if you want to stop these other things. Go ahead,
Right.
Michelle.
It is really important. And I will say one more thing. It's not something that I have mentioned that often, but I think it's really interesting. And if folks think it's interesting, I hope that you'll react so that I can test this in real time and see if it's something that people think is impactful. I think that a lot of times, especially for those purple states, for those battleground states, people look at how much money is spent by the statewide races, especially in presidential years, and assume that all of those state legislative races were well resourced. And they're not.
Right.
We have a dashboard that we are creating right now. I've been working on it for far too long. And it shows just how many of these state legislative races were either uncontested or underfunded. And underfunding means they had less than about 50 cents per eligible voter, right? So this happens in Pennsylvania, in North Carolina, right? In all these different states that you're used to seeing tens and tens of millions of dollars go into. Those state legislative candidates still don't have resources, which means they're not able to organize the people in their local area and send up, votes up ticket, which we can fix. And that's what I'm saying about, first in line. So if you go to everystateblue.org/first in line, first dash
I can make the same.
hyphen.
Get
Yeah, if you could put it in the chat, that would be great.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. You can go to and you can see all the different states that are live right now. We're live in over 20 states. And if you just donate, it'll split your donation between all of the people who are, who are on that tandem page, or you can, modify them however you want to just by clicking. I think it's like, change my contribution or something. Every State Blue doesn't take a cut of any of this, by the way. So this only goes to the candidates themselves. We're doing this because we think it's important to do, and because we want to make sure that every state has the same kind of support and encouragement that
Yes.
Missouri, Ohio, and Tennessee have gotten.
I went through. It's a really great website. I went up when you were going to be on
I'm
last.
glad you like it.
I really did a deeper dive last week to look at all the numbers, and I saw Virginia wasn't on there, but there's a reason. I couldn't remember what exactly it was, but
Because you guys don't have state legislative elections right now.
that's right. We're done. And I want to say hi. David Felt's in the room. David's in the room. David Felt's good to see. We saw Explicit join. We love Explicit. Good to see him here. People are.
Oh, and I should mention too that if you do not have a state that you really are in love with, that you know exactly where you want to send your resources, you can take a fun little jaunty quiz that I created. It's a personality quiz,
Yes.
and that's on the website. There's like a little link that says "Don't know which state to support." Click here, and so you can click there, and it'll ask you some really fun little, very not scientific questions at all.
Well,
But it was sort of our way of
like if you like.
advocating.
Like if you like dark beer, maybe, maybe
Yeah, the first question is, what is your relationship to the phrase "bless your heart"?
we had Anderson Clayton on last week. We did a phone bank. One thing I'll say that if folks have been following us, we are fighting hard about, yes, and our phone banks are continuing. We have tomorrow night, Jess Craven is going to be kicking it off, so that's at 5:30.
That's
Then
amazing.
we have some liberal rednecks kicking off Tuesday. We have Trey Crowder and I think it's Mark McGee. I'm going to
You
call him.
guys are killing it.
Yeah, Wednesday we have somebody. Oh, I'm trying to think. We have Reed Gallen from the Lincoln Project. Then we have Simon Rosenberg back again. We have Glenn Kirshner today. Weren't you on with Glenn today?
I was there with Blake Kirshner today, and he was
Justice
on
Matters,
fire. So
Glenn
he talked
Kirshner.
about, yeah, he talked about Hungary. He talked so
Yeah.
long and so fierce that they had to play him off with music. But we were all just so excited listening to him because he was talking about accountability. And he was talking about the criminal justice system and our Department of Justice and how it should be run, and that whoever is in office needs to be sure that we are holding these people accountable, all of them, and we are passionate about that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I will say that on Friday, we have Jean Wu coming in from Texas, a delegate on the Friday Power.
Wow.
And yeah, it's going to, so because we want to talk about Texas, because it relates to Virginia so much. That's why we're doing this Virginia with the referendum, the redistricting referendum. Fennell, I want you to talk about Friday. Who's going to be on?
Yeah, I'm really excited. We're having Steve Phillips from Democracy in Color. And so he's written multiple books. And so Brown is the New Black, I think is the name of it. And then the one on the civil rights, the why we haven't won the Civil War yet. And then this one, I believe the name is Are White People Smarter? Are White People Smarter? Which is really going to be a really interesting. Yeah, because he does everything. It's really focused around race and how race really determines a lot of things. It's all of his books are really smart. They're really data driven, and they really point to what's happening right now. And if you just take a look at how this administration looks at diversity, I think the timing of his book could not be better in terms of helping us understand and think about how this administration is thinking. And Catherine, I know we're over, but there's just a couple of things I just want to point to for folks who are just joining, who joined late. We talked about Orban. Go and find the Atlantic, the whatever newspaper you read, and read about why it was so important that this race be won by and Orban be kicked out, because it's just so important to our own democracy that we're looking towards. And there's lessons to be learned there. We also talked about the Yes campaign. And again, I don't care where you're from. If you have friends and family in Virginia, you should be supporting this campaign, because it isn't just about Virginia. It is about restraining this administration. And the way that we do that is leveling the field and making sure that in November, we win so many seats that we shellac them, because it's just the right thing to do, because they're so awful.
Yes.
And then, of course, Michelle can talk about how she wants to end with first in line. So I just wanted to say that.
Roy McIlroy run the Masters, and he was supposed to win because he's a good guy. Yeah. Damon,
Michelle?
Go ahead. Close this out. Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll close this out.
So one of the things that I love doing in my job as the executive director of Every State Blue is calling nominees, calling the people that get to have resources that we get to support, because it's really meaningful to hear someone who didn't think that they had any support, thought that they were doing this all on their own and that no one saw them. It's really meaningful to have someone share with you, that, laughter, tears, what have you. And so I wanted to share something similar to that with you today.
Okay.
Because we got this first week that we even had First in Line open, we got an email from a candidate in Alabama. His name is Alan, and he is running, Alan Thomas. He's running in a district that hasn't had a Democrat for 24 years.
Wow.
He said that he's the first one to have the drive and the gumption to do it. And I think that's about right. He said that he got a $20 donation from someone in Brooklyn, and he didn't know why. And, for a lot of statewide, for federal campaigns that we're used to seeing that we end up in our inbox, or, we get text messages for, $20 might be a rounding error, right? But for him, it was remarkable. And it was so remarkable that he stopped what he was doing, researched it, tracked it down to First in Line, tracked First in Line down to Every State Blue, tracked down my email address, and sent me a thank you note. And this is what he said. We, the people, have been silent and silenced for far too long. That isn't just Democrats. That's the other 30 to 40% that doesn't vote at all because their voice doesn't matter or there hasn't been a choice. This year is different. And with support from organizations like yours, we're going to make it count, get loud, send a message, and turn this state and others purple, if not altogether blue. Thank you for supporting this campaign and all the others. We are just getting started.
Ooh, we are just getting started, and I love it. We're tonight, like I said, we can definitely end the show with a good feeling that somewhere out there in the human universe, people get it, and they're out there with, like as you say, praying with their feet, marching to the polls, voting, and all that good stuff. And when we ended the protest on that bridge, when we started it, I'm out here in Shenandoah and Strasburg, in Woodstock, this great group, the Woodstock, from Woodstock to Edinburgh out here to the Shenandoah Dems on that bridge, 58 weeks. As we drove away, everybody had packed up except this one lady in the middle of the bridge. And her beautiful hair is flowing. She's an older woman. I found out her name later was Pat. And she just stood there with the American flag, just no one else around her. And I was just like, wow. This amazed me to just watch her just determination to just be seen and get the message across. And it was just a great way to end that great feeling. And just like your story too. So I want to say thank you, Michelle Hornish, for being here. Thanks for everybody in the room. Fred's written here, Diana Richardson, good friends coming in. Join us every Sunday at 7. We'll have Michelle probably come as a regular guest because we love her.
I love you guys. I'm always
going to wrangle her in.
Wrangle her in. I know. And I'm just saying that good news for everybody. So signing off with just a great feeling. And we hope that we'll see you on the phone banks, folks. Go to the Virginia Grassroots, go to our Friday Power Lunch Live, and I'll make sure I put the link to sign in to get into our phone banks and also join us on the Friday Power Lunch.
And happy birthday.
And happy birthday, Catherine.
Happy birthday. Yes. 62, baby. All right, everybody. See you later. Love y'all. Good night.
Bye-bye. Good night, everybody.
Good night.